Thank you very much.
So, thank you very much for joining this panel. And the question is, how resilient is innovation in pharma in the face of shifting geopolitical landscapes? And that's what's attracted you to this panel. My name's Chrissia Sommers, and I'm delighted to be moderating this panel together with four very distinguished panelists. So on my left here, we have Juliana McCall, and she's CEO of the California Council on Science and Technology. Juliana is a former Falling Walls Fellow, so from 13 years ago, and it's the first time that she's been back since. So, yeah, welcome. And we also have Gustavo Pesquin. So he is CEO of Ask Bio, a gene therapy company, and also a wholly owned subsidiary of Bayer. So welcome, Gustavo. And we also have Hendrik Strich. So our German colleagues, maybe you recognize Hendrik. So was a former advisor during COVID and is now actually member of the German Bundestag and federal government commissioner for drug and addiction. So warm welcome. And last but not least, we have Alice Aiken, who's come all the way from Canada today, from Dalhousie.
You have it coming here.
And Alice is a professor of health and also former vice president of research and innovation. So a warm welcome to you all, and thank you very much for joining us. So let's start with an icebreaker question to all of you. So in this world of shifting geopolitical landscapes, very, very exciting times at the intersection of science and biotechnology, what do you see as the greatest opportunity? We'll start with Julianne.
Thank you so much for having me. Working at the intersection of public policy and science and research, you can't help but see the multiple factors that are influencing the outcomes of our work. And so my contribution would be to appreciate the actual needs of society and not continue on with the status quo as if there wasn't greater diversity in the research pool than was originally architected.
Very good point. Thank you. Gustavo.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. I would say that the speed and the accuracy at which therapies can be developed these days was unthinkable only 10 years ago, and I would say that this is a massive opportunity for humanity to find cures for diseases that have been stubborn to find a relevant therapy.
Thank you. Hendrik.
Well, I think in a time of crisis and shifting geopolitical landscapes, it's time for science diplomacy, and science can be a bridge, a neutral intersection between countries, and can actually help, even though there's a crisis, can help to shape the world still to a better place. And at the same time, I think Europe can play a particular role in there, because it can be a safe haven for some of the researchers that can't do their research right now in other countries.
Thank you, Hendrik.
Yeah. Thank you for the question, and for my colleagues. I agree with all of you. I'd like to put in a plug for Canada also as a safe haven for research.
We accept that.
Yeah. You know, I think for me, one of the greatest opportunities right now is the opportunity for everyone to come together, for governments, for businesses, for funders to come together and scale. Start scaling quickly. We have the solutions. We take way too long to get them to market. So I think the opportunity now is for scalability, and I think it's exactly the right time when we realized we've had a reliance on maybe traditional academic norms and traditional funding sources, and we were okay with the slow pace, and that's all shifting, and so now is the time. Now is our opportunity.
Wonderful. Thanks, Alex. So we have speed, we have diplomacy, we have collaboration. And I did pick up on you, Gustavo, you're waxing lyrical about gene therapy. Why is it so exciting right now to be in gene therapy?
Well, thank you for the question. I would say that gene therapy is in this intersection of several breakthroughs in terms of innovation. I think it was probably not only the ability to create more effective gene therapies, which is a field that has probably already 30 years by now, but also, for example, the fact that we're tackling pathway diseases, because gene therapy was conceived for diseases that had a clear monogenic root, and maybe everyone thought about those rare diseases when they thought about gene therapy. Now, for example, in AskBio, we're developing therapies for Parkinson or heart failure using the same platform. I think that also many times something that is overlooked is that when you think about gene therapy, the route of administration also is a breakthrough. Like, for example, all the work that we do in brain, which from a pharmaceutical standpoint has been an innovation graveyard because a lot of promising therapies failed. But now the fact that you are delivering that effective therapy in a surgical procedure exactly in the part of the brain where you want it to be, that delivers a degree of precision that was, again, not possible many years ago. I would say that these are probably the breakthroughs that are right in front of us right now.
And I really like that example, Gustavo. So you're talking about precision oncology, but when it comes to Parkinson's, it has to be so precise. Yeah, as you were saying, it's really, really exponential developments. So, Julian, you're also here from representing California. How is the vibe there right now? And if we think about international ecosystems and making sure at the end of the day that the drugs get to the patients as fast as possible, how are things developing?
I do appreciate that Europe and Canada are safe havens. We try to see California as in a similar light. We are leaning into partnerships, recognizing that through more expanded data sharing, of course, always prioritizing patient data privacy and security, but acknowledging that we all have a piece of the puzzle, that coming together is possibly our only way out of this moment of tumult. So I would leave you with that.
Very good, and it's also, I mean, I like the part about the puzzle. So it's, if we take this holistic view, it's a very systemic, moving landscapes, as we mentioned. And gene therapy, we spoke about AskBio. Now, looking at how things are developing in the States for gene therapy, last year, or I think it was 2023, there were 2,050 clinical trials only in gene therapy. In Germany, we had 150. So, Hendrik, why is this? I am aware we have Medical Research Act, we also have a cell and gene therapy strategy, all good milestones going in the right direction. First of all, why the delta, and are these strategies helping?
Well, let's start a little bit with a historic background, because Germany used to be the biggest insulin producer. And I think it was a wrong political decision at that time to make very strict gene therapy laws. And we still have those laws in Germany. And it's unbelievably complicated to bring, for example, CAR T-cell therapy on the market in Germany. But the good news is we have realized that we have problems there and that we have to modernize those laws. So I hope during this period of government that we're going to manage to renew these laws. I think it was a bad decision at that time, and it basically broke the company Höchst, who was producing insulin at that time. Germany has a problem with clinical trials right now, and even though we have the Medical Service Act right now, it's not enough. During COVID, Germany had 65 clinical trials. 51 of the 65 clinical trials were cancelled, and the average participations in the clinical trials were only 15 participants, which shows the dimension how bad Germany clinical research is right now. It's overly bureaucratic. We have a complicated ethical system right now. We have 16 states, and sometimes when you do a collaborative study, every ethical committee has to vote on it and has different changes it would like to see. Now we have changed this with a new medical service law, but it's not enough. It didn't change the landscape that well. It's still overly bureaucratic, and we have to work on that even more, make it simpler, make it easier. One study, one ethical vote, etc. That's the way we have to go to bring more medical research onto ground in Germany.
Thanks, Hendrik. I found it very fascinating. You shattered my illusion about Germany in the COVID times, because I actually was under the impression that bureaucratic hurdles were broken down. There were no silos. Biotech was hailed as, you know, a pioneer out there, and Hendrik was no. So
Well, I'm not saying we had good research, but doing clinical trials, and in particular doing clinical trials with new substances or with vaccines, we were not really able to do this in Germany. And for BioNTech, for example, as a German company, they went to other countries to do the study. It was not really much performed in Germany here.
okay, so we've spoken about the US, Germany. Obviously, we're here to talk about geopolitical landscapes. To what extent is China playing a role here? And I know when it comes to speed, they seem to be a lot faster as well. So what are they doing right, would you say? Anyone can answer this.
Money. They're just putting gobs of money into research, right? Yeah. So it's, I think our funding systems, and all of us, Europe, Canada, we all relied as well on US funding. Yep. That isn't there anymore. And I think we have seen a government that will put loads of money into research and build big facilities, big research facilities in record time. And so, you know, I think if I was to say that's what they're doing right, I think that's what they're doing right. They're funding the work.
I think that's one aspect, and we also spoke. Gustavo, go ahead.
And I will agree with that. I think that there are several ways in which they are supporting the evolution of innovation. Another one is the way that they prioritize it. Like, for example, when it comes to clinical trials for rare diseases, they are very supportive, what is called the IITs, the investigator-initiated trials. And now you're starting to see a lot of therapies for rare diseases that, in partnership with these patient associations, they are tested much more rapidly in China than in the rest of the world. I also want to highlight the power of innovation that is being seen in China these days. Bayer opened one of those collabs, one of those incubators in Shanghai a year ago. I was privileged to be there for the opening. And for example, we have developed with one very successful gene therapy company in China a partnership because, for example, in the world of gene therapy, different from traditional pharmaceuticals in which someone identifies one compound and it's okay, who did it, but that's where the story pretty much starts and ends. A gene therapy is a combination of a capsid, a transgene, a promoter, a route of administration, sometimes immune suppression approach. So we're discussing before the session today, and pretty much I cannot think about one therapy in which we do not have one partnership somehow embedded in it. And in that sense, China is playing a strategic role in innovation.
Very good. Comes back to the topic of the collaboration, the ecosystems. Anything to add, Julianne?
I mean, I see echoes of the U.S. National Laboratory System, where they established user-facilitated sections of the laboratories where you have particle accelerators, right, for use by academia for free, of course, selected through a competitive process, and by companies, right, when the data are proprietary, right, there's a fee added onto it. And I see, right, China for 20 years now, right, invested heavily in genetic sequencing technology to ensure that they had state-of-the-art facilities for their academics and their businesses to use in tandem. And I think we're seeing the benefits of that. The National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine in the United States have put together 2 State of the Science addresses last year and this year. And pulling in the numbers, China is already producing more high-quality research articles than US science ecosystem. Not just more articles, more high quality articles measured by the number of citations. So we, I think, are seeing the benefits of that early infrastructure investment.
Okay, that's very, very interesting to know how things are developing, and also this innovation-friendly frameworks, which we've seen in the States as well, yeah? And just coming back to your point about money, yeah? So venture capital actually supporting startups to thrive. This is also a very, very exciting topic, which we see in California. What's the secret sauce?
I mean, not being afraid to take a chance, right? Recognizing that of top 10 out of the top 10 candidate drugs, only one will be successful in the market, and so having that ecosystem ready to go and within proximity, right? We see through published literature that when scientists, engineers, administrators, right, are able, not to mention, all the administrative supports that make that system possible, when they are within, I'm going to say 5 miles, forgive me, I think it's 9 kilometers of one another, right? They see an exponential, thank you, 8 kilometers. They see an exponential, a quantum leap in productivity and creativity in and through their work. So we are seeing public universities like the University of California investing in student projects as its own form of a venture capital source. So trying out new things and being within proximity to have that cohesion within the network already, so that you are ready to jump when the time comes.
You can see the younger members of the audience here, eyes lighting up. Wow. So, Gustavo.
Maybe what I would like to add is that pretty much when you look at the success of the US in the world of biomedical innovation, everyone focuses on the venture capital world, the role of the NASDAQ, but something that is really overlooked many times is that connectivity between the NIH funding and the academic institutions. This has been pretty much the main source of breakthrough innovation for the biomedical ecosystem. And let's say that all the challenges these days with the federal funding are putting that ecosystem at risk. Something I wanted to add now, because it's connected to the previous question, that I think it's an important question for societies as well, is the role of education in science as well. Like probably if we look at why China is successful, you go to China and the bright kids want to be scientists. I have 2 very intelligent children, and every time that I speak with their friends, almost every other time I have to ask, why do you want to be a banker? Why do you think that the world needs another banker? You're so intelligent. There are so many wonderful things that you could do for the world. And I think that it was interesting because that was my personal experience, but I think that a couple of weeks ago there was an article in The Economist, I believe, about this. It's like, why all the intelligent kids in the US want to be bankers or consultants?
Yeah.
So I think that by itself, I am completely sure that is playing a role in the success of China compared to the Western world.
So in Halifax, Nova Scotia, so we're on the east coast of Canada, for those who don't know, and Dalhousie University is one of the research-intensive universities in Canada. And we are in a province that, and a city that has become a startup city, I would say in the last 7 years probably. And the university played a really key role in that, as did the venture capitalists and all of we built this incredible innovation ecosystem. So it started, we're right on the Atlantic Ocean. It started with a lot of ocean-related startups. There are over 400 ocean-related startups in the city of Halifax. It's a city of 500,000 people in a province of 1 million people. So we're not big, but we're small. And that's our advantage. It's because we are big enough to have impact and small enough to be nimble. And so the government has supported this. The venture capitalists and the private sector has supported this. And Dalhousie University now leads the Lab to Market program for Canada, which is like I-Corps in the US, the innovation programming. And so we were really able to contribute to that. And there are now, do you know the number of startups in Halifax, Parmjot? I'm looking at my colleague over here. Yeah, something like 876. About.
Be precise.
876 startups now in our city, and we got so much attention now. We're the North American hub for NATO Diana, which is the Defense Innovation Accelerator for the North Atlantic as well. So we got to be part of watching an ecosystem start up, and we looked at Silicon Valley and said, all the smartest people aren't in California. They're all over the world, and what they have is the right ecosystem. And we need to mimic that ecosystem, and we've done it very successfully in Halifax, and I would say that others can do it too. It's possible.
So just zooming back also to Berlin, I think it's really, really inspiring what's happening also in Canada. Berlin also seems to be a growing innovation hub. And, you know, we hear expressions like it's a Boston on the spray. Hendrik, is it working? Is it headlines? Do you feel the vibe?
Well, I think we have in many different countries or cities in Germany, like those little ecosystems that are happening for different in different research areas. Here, of course, with Charité, Berlin Institute of Health, we have the Robert Koch Institute here. So in the biomedical area, this is really something that seems to work. We have also in my city where I'm coming from, we have in different areas like mathematics, for example, we have a huge ecosystem, physics, mathematics for excellency. Like we have 9 of the bigger clusters for excellency. It's the largest cluster of we call it elite research in Bonn, but what we are lacking in is really the step for funding a startup, or like the first step maybe to start a startup up works, but it's again overly bureaucratic, and we have complicated application processes and complicated reporting processes. And but we realized this, and that's why that in many of those fields in Germany, we realized that we are actually putting a blockade of letting the science do their job and trying to bring it onto the market. So, and that's why we even have a ministry now for that to reduce bureaucracy and modernize the country. I hope it's working, but I think the first step to do something better is to realize what the problems are, and I think we're at this point right now.
And we do, just wanted to jump on there, we do have very good positive examples of public-private partnerships. So, for example, recently the opening of the Gene and Cell Therapy Center in Berlin, which is a partnership with Charité. Gustavo, do you want to?
Sure, I can comment on it. Particularly, our chairman was Stefan Ulrich, was heavily involved in that project. This is a good example of a public-private partnership work. It's basically something that was done between Bayer, the Charité University Hospital, that there's a name in German for that, I'm not going to even try it, and the Berlin Health Innovation Center. And it's currently partly funded by the state of Berlin and the federal government, and we're discussing sustainability of those investments. Yesterday I was in Paris, and there are multiple examples on how with creativity this can be funded. Like, for example, the center of the public center of gene therapy there is called Geneton, and the reason for that was that the Geneton was the TV show that raised money to find cure for rare diseases, and basically that became the structural way to fund the center, the National Center for Genetic Diseases. And it's a fantastic center, 250 researchers. This is a cause that is close to the heart of the French. So every year, the same time of the year, they do the fundraising and people donate serious money. And that really shows that, in a way, we discussed this before the session as well, how this intersection of technology, government, and society, that is what can create a little bit of the magic chemistry or the barriers that can stop innovation.
I love that. It's a very, very good positive example of also the societal pull and the way you're getting everything intermeshed, as you mentioned, the governmental, academia, industries. You wanted to add on to that?
Yeah, thank you very much. We keep referencing ecosystems and the benefit and value of ecosystems. And as someone who's worked in California state government for 8 years, in the governor's office as well as the California state legislature, government is often left out of conversations around investments in science and technology. I have one wonderful example. Within 3 years of the California state investing a modest amount, $2.5 million, for an 18-month project demonstrating the economic value of whole genome sequencing for infants, newborns with rare diseases who are otherwise difficult to diagnose. And within 18 months, across 5 different centers in California, the researchers led by University of California, San Diego, determined that it was economically beneficial, right? Not just health beneficial, but also economically beneficial to the state. And within 2 years of the conclusion of that study, the state of California started supporting whole genome sequencing of hard-to-diagnose newborns. It was a no-brainer. They saw the numbers, they realized, we need to do this. So engaging government during the research process, right, to determine and modes of access, right, will be dependent on government support, and government is often swayed when you actually put together a proposal that speaks not just to the science, but also to the societal factors.
Hendrik, how can we take a piece of this? Are you inspired now?
Well, I think we are actually trying to do this more right now, because we started founding think tanks within our party, within the Christian Democratic Union, and we have those think tanks around science, research, and innovation now, where we invite stakeholders from different parts of science, and not to have the immediate solution what we have to do next, but to think outside of the box and maybe rethink how we want to fund science, how we want to help science to be the leader in new ideas, in changes in society, how we can actually maybe break down how the models of science and science careers. In Germany, for example, we have this problem. We have either students or professors. The postdoc time is rather short, and we don't have really staff scientists or anything like this. So some researchers do not want to become professor, and we want to think about, together with the scientists, how we can change the scientific environment, that it's better for the scientists, and also maybe we have a bigger impact and new innovations.
Professor Alice Aiken, I think there's a lot we can learn from you here. So also in terms of public-private partnerships and inspiring young people to go into academia.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I took a very circuitous route to academia and didn't actually start in the academic world till I was a bit older, but there's a couple of things. I think we need to teach our scientists and our young scientists how to communicate properly, right? So Julianne gave us a great example of communicating back not just the science, but the economic benefit of doing something. And that is what people want to hear. We all find our science fascinating, but don't get up and bore politicians with tons of data and things that they aren't interested in. So I think we really do, which is part of the reason I love Falling Walls. It really teaches people to communicate in a way that everybody can understand. So I think that's really important. I want to give you an example of really great government engagement. So Canada has universal healthcare. We don't have socialized medicine, we do have universal healthcare. And our government, and it's run by each province, so that presents, there's no real federation, presents a bit of a problem. But in our province, the government funded a health innovation center. And it's called the Nova Scotia Health Innovation Centre, and they adopted a test and try model. So they brought in some big companies, some startups, the academic ecosystem, and the government. And what they said is if we try something in one area of the province and it works, we will implement it across the province because the government pays for healthcare, so they can do that. And it has been so successful that the CEO of our health authority now is getting requests from around the world to go and speak about how they did that. A lot of us had a piece in how that started up and got working, but it is a real success story of what can happen. And I actually believe, really well aware that I'm standing here with a lot of health people and a physician, and health is the hardest nut to crack. It is really the hardest nut to crack. We're working on a pan-Canadian ethics approval for clinical trials, right? Because right now it goes province by province, so we're almost there. But I think health is one of the hardest nuts to crack, and I think we've got a really lovely model in Nova Scotia that seems to be working well, and a lot of it's about communication. Yeah.
Very good. Maybe just one aspect, because we talk about economic benefit, and I did read an article the other day in Financial Times. The headline was AI is bucking the international trend when it comes to healthcare. This is the one area where it's seen viable as actually being profitable, beneficial for the states, for the economies. To what extent are we weaving this into our models?
Good question.
Extensively.
Unprepared question, sorry.
If we miss this opportunity to leverage our technology in a way that benefits both industry, academia, as well as the patients, not to mention government, in administering all of these programs, will be foolish. And it's not so much the deployment, it's the responsible deployment of AI, particularly with healthcare. I would say that we can't move fast enough, but I'll reference my initial comment during this panel, and we can't just keep doing business as usual. There's a social scientist in New Jersey, Princeton, New Jersey, Dr. Ruha Benjamin, who conducted some social science about 2 years ago and found that with every biotech breakthrough, health disparities in the United States worsen. That the system wasn't built to lift all boats. And I think with AI, we actually have an opportunity to make good on our promise of deploying precision medicine, and that gives me immense hope with the understanding that we are applying those responsible levers appropriately.
Exactly. So, I mean, the topic of this discussion panel is resilience in pharma, speeding up breakthrough medicines from the molecule or from the therapy to the market. And AI must play an important factor here. So it's interwoven into everything now. So Gustavo, you were making a point earlier today about this, yeah?
Oh, yes. And I think that I'm a complete believer that this is the biggest transformation in the history of the world. This is not a buzzword. It is. I would say that probably for us who work in this health system, last year was a very important indication, because if you see who won the Nobel Prize of Chemistry, it was not a chemist, it was not even a biologist. It was an AI expert who said, if we can teach a computer how to beat anyone at chess, and if we can teach a computer how to beat them at Go, that it's a lot more complicated, why is that the world has not been able to understand how proteins fold? And there has been a plateau that was reached at kind of like 20% effectiveness in the discovery. And with the exact same approach, they took it from 20% to 90%. This is AlphaFold. And by the way, what was incredible is that they created the system of open innovation, and it was like in a matter of weeks, AlphaFold had about 100,000 users in the world. So that's why I'm saying like the speed and the accuracy of innovation is not just a concept that looking at you go to the hard facts, and it's a complete big bang. And at the same time, I'm very convinced that there are risks associated to artificial intelligence, and I think that probably it's funny because 25 years ago we were talking about the importance of the collaboration of industry and government and academia and all that, and it was important. But if you tell me, okay, but can the world keep going if we continue the same way? Probably the answer was yes. It was going to be inefficient, but yes. I would say that we have reached a point in which this can start becoming very, very problematic if there's no like a great collaboration, a shared vision from the technological side, the regulation side, and the ethical and society side. That platform needs to be consolidated in an effective way.
Well, I totally agree. But one aspect, I think it will completely transform medicine from small molecule design to diagnosis and even finding cure for some of the diseases where we couldn't find a cure yet. One aspect that I keep thinking about right now, as a federal commissioner for drug and addiction, we keep discussing right now if we're going to have a transformation in the world of drugs, illegal drugs, euphoric changes in different euphoric states, etc., because we're getting closer there as well, that we get designer drugs where we can't really think about yet, or that we have a better affinity to the receptors that will totally transform the world of drugs, and therefore we may have different different addictions where we can't really think of yet, designed by AI.
Mm-hmm. Is that something that you're looking into already, Hendrik?
We are discussing it. I'm also in the European Drug Agency Executive Board, and we are discussing this a lot, as we are also seeing a lot of synthetic design opioids, for example, nitazenes, morphine, which have a potency of 500-fold of regular heroin, and so small molecules can already be deadly, and so we are small amounts. So we are discussing if we are just at the brink right now of a totally new development of synthetic drugs, but we don't have clear evidence for that there's a totally new market happening right now.
Did you want to build on that, Alice?
Yeah, I do, and I think there's a more positive side to AI, though I'm really glad people are thinking about that. But
Oh, don't get me wrong. I think AI is fantastic.
That's
why I said the whole part about medicine before, right?
No, so what I really think is going to change, and Julianne brought this up, but what I think is really going to change with AI, or what I hope is really going to change with AI, is a focus on personalized medicine and health equity. So that no matter where you are in the world, so I come from a country, I live on the east coast of Canada, it is faster for me to fly to Frankfurt than it is to fly to Vancouver in my own country, right? I live in a large country, small population, rural and remote medicine is very important to us. And I think that having that health equity is one positive aspect that AI can bring. But I also sort of go down the route of, if we really have personalized medicine with AI, can we not then also cure addictions? Yeah. Rather than better designer drugs coming out, like, could we not then actually cure addictions, which I'm pretty sure most addicts would want? So, what I really hope with AI is that the future is bright for all of us. We all have the exact care that we need at the right time, the right amount that can sort us out, and anyone has access to it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And adding further context, right? 85% when you predict someone's health, 85% of someone's health is attributable to the social drivers of health, the social determinants of
postal
health.
code, their
right?
zip code, yeah.
Exactly, right? Where they live, where they work, their education status, right? Their income, right? And for AI, right, to capture the complexity, right, of those factors gives me immense hope. I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Okay, we've really kind of dug deep onto many, many different layers and topics here, from collaboration to venture capital, and now weaving in the power of AI for the future. I think this is a good time to open up to the audience. We already have the first question there.
Dr.
In the middle on the left.
Eric, I think Eric, you, yeah.
So my name is Talia Milenki. I am from Goethe University. I'm a researcher in medicinal chemistry. And first, thank you for the thorough discussion and for covering so many topics. I would like to relate to one of the topics that was brought up, why the younger generation is not that interested in going into science.
Yes.
And I will say, unfortunately, as a medicinal chemist, I have very brilliant colleagues, some colleagues who just finished PhD. And we are facing really hard way of searching for a position. Even between us in the lab, we say that the market is overfloated. Nobody needs medicinal chemists, and I will actually disagree, and I will say that many of us stay as postdocs because it is simply more convenient. And my question would be, is there any way to overcome this? Are there any plans to somehow change the situation? Because indeed, there are so many brilliant researchers that I think can contribute tremendously to innovation and innovation in medicinal chemistry and in small molecules, for example.
Who wants to answer this?
I can get started, and thank you so much for your question, because also from your experience, you bring the reality that probably was behind some experiences that I have lived. I would say that probably an answer may have multiple components. No, I think that probably funding in healthcare, I know that we have many people from the venture capital world here, has been a crazy roller coaster, because we came from 2021, beginning of 22, in which the good, the bad, and the ugly projects will get funded. If you had an idea, you got the money, to a point in which funding got dry, literally from, like, for example, we were following because of this partnership approach that we have, gene therapy companies coming out of stealth in the United States, and you look at like 15 years, like from the early 2000s to mid-2022, and there were like systematically 14, 15 companies coming out of stealth per year. After that, there were like 2 in the following 36 months. So probably I'm sure that a lot of scientists these days are starting to feel how fast the funding of innovation has dried up. The other part, of course, is that this goes in neighborhoods. Clearly, innovation in one country, sometimes within the country, is very different. Sometimes one is faster and probably with more opportunities to grow. Others are probably less vibrant, but a lot more stable, and stable in science is good as well. So I think that probably one additional challenge is that, probably a scientist may want to consider where in the world they want to develop, and this has social implications as well. Probably to leave you with a happier note is that clearly we are seeing the funding of innovation turning the corner in the past 1 or 2 quarters. Like, if a lot of companies that ask me March, April, where we are, I will have told them, this is a dark, dark night. Like, it's been dark for 3 years, and I do not see the light at the end of the tunnel. If you ask me in the past 2-3 months, the friends who were in good programs, I have one of them who IPO his company yesterday, Evomune. Another one, Trogenics, that is a former AskBio colleague, raised $150 million a month ago. A lot of very competent colleagues that were calling me, hey, I cannot find my next role. They're landing
Gustavo,
their
I'm
job.
going to have to interrupt you.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Because we don't have much
Sorry, I
time, but I
apologize.
think
That's my Argentine
very,
side. We're
very,
long-winded, genetically
interesting and
long-winded.
really, really good to see that, yeah,
Very good.
you do see a little light at the end of the
I
tunnel.
do.
There are positive examples. Alice, very briefly.
Very
yeah.
briefly,
And
with
then-
my Vice President Research and Innovation hat on, I think we do our PhDs and postdocs a disservice by not teaching them where else they can be employed. We were trained to be in academia, and so we know how to train people to be in academia. And I think we really need to train our PhDs and postdocs to look at corporate partnerships, to do internships in industry, to do internships in government, and look at being in policy. So to look at other opportunities, nothing makes me more sad than somebody who feels like they have to be stuck in a postdoc. There are so many opportunities for people with PhDs. We live in the knowledge economy.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Julianne.
So my organization, the California Council on Science and Technology, modeled a state-level science and technology policy fellowship after AAAS, the American Association for the Advancement of Science, which has been placing doctoral-level scientists and engineers in U.S. federal government for 55 years already. And there are over 200 of us alumni. I personally spent 16 years in academia, thought all I had to contribute to the world was microneurosurgery for rodents. I really thought that's what I had to offer. But my goodness, you take that same scientific approach and you apply it to the tens of millions of people of California, in my case. Data are data. Whether I'm looking at a genetic assay or services rendered across California communities, data are data, and over 100 of us are still working in and around California state government. So happy to share that model we have and a career guide for those of you with scientific backgrounds.
Wonderful, inspiring role model examples here. I'm just looking. So I think in the order, I think you were next, yeah? And then we've got a couple here and here as well, yeah.
It's very short. I'm working in vitro models on skeletal disease, and we are working in vitro in silico in vivo loop. So now we are talking about geopolitical shifts, and we have a lot of animal-free research movements across the world, specifically in Europe, also in US. I was wondering how you position then the clinical research and then reaching out to patients with this data.
Who wants to take a stab at this one?
I've been disciplined, so I was pulling back a bit. Yeah, we have had a number of this. I will try to be fast. We have had a number of discussions about the topic. I would say it's not straightforward. Definitely, these models need to be leveraged more. At the same time, these animal testings precede human testings, and you want to minimize the risk that you take with this human testing. So I think it's good evolution. Also, a lot of intention, for example, of diminish the utilization of non-human primates, for example, in these preclinical trials, but work in progress.
Yeah.
Okay. Gentleman here with the beige
right there.
jacket and glasses.
Thank you, great panel. I'm Eric Vermetten from the Netherlands. I'm a psychiatrist, Leiden University Medical Center. And yesterday I spoke with my colleague Dimitris Rapantes and Roy Solomon on psychedelics. We had a packed symposium. And I'm just wondering, how resilient do you think that pharma is into, let's say, repurposing or reintroduction of an array of molecules, an array of compounds? And I'd like to hear also Hendrik Streeck, because what we see is a relative inflexibility of the regulatory systems in doing the research. Philanthropy drives it. There's not a lot of governments that are actually supporting. And there's a great need in mental health for novel therapies, specifically in the geopolitical situation that we're all in. So I'd just like to hear your comments on where the roadmap, or maybe the EMA is playing with this regulatory sandbox model that creates maybe some flexibility or so. I'd like to hear your opinion how to move forward.
Just before you, Dr. Vermetten's being very modest. He is actually one of the world leaders in psychedelic research. So
Great.
there you go.
good.
Just let you know.
Thank you, Alice.
Well, first of all, I think that we realized that we have a problem in our flexibility for clinical research, and we have to make changes there. We have too few clinical studies. It's too complicated to test in Germany substances. Myself, when I was 2 years ago, I wanted to start a clinical study on HIV cure, and I had funding, and at one point the funder said, this is just taking too long. We cannot do this. We are moving to a different country. We realize this. We want to make the changes. I can't tell you now how the changes are going to look like. I'm following actually the psychedelic research a little bit, just for example, for depression, right? And the clinical trials on there. What we have in this field, unfortunately, is sometimes the lack of good randomized clinical trials, and with some not psychedelic substances, but other substances, for example, diamorphin as a substitute, oral diamorphin, which is not licensed in Germany, and we need here also flexibility that we are able to look in other countries and see what have they done and how did it work in the field, in the practice, and accept this as a way of licensure also in Germany. This is something that the BfArM is doing in Germany, but these are ways that we are trying to explore right now, that maybe we have less strict rules by applying rules from other countries here in Germany as well.
Thank you so much. Fascinating discussions, and I'm sure there's a break soon and you can all reconvene and pick up on these discussions. I'm really sorry, but I need to stop now. I've been getting these signs. And I do have this final question to all of you. So if you can just give 1 or 2 words. So what walls need to break down in order to increase resilience in the pharma market amid these geopolitical shifts, so we can bring breakthrough medicines to the market as quickly as possible? Julianne.
Cross-sector partnerships.
Cross-sector partnership.
No, okay.
Cross-sector partner. Bureaucracy.
Yeah, and I think Hendrik brought this up. We need to accept research from other countries. We don't always have to do it in our own.
Good.
Thank you so much. It's been a really fascinating discussion. Thank you for tuning in.
Transnational partnership, yeah. Well done.
Okay. Key takeaway, cross-section partnerships, yeah. So